Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to tell you about Thaddeus Medical. We're making smart packaging for temperature-sensitive products that are going through the retail supply chain, things like vaccines or biological therapies, and also for clinical specimens. And so I started this company back in 2015 when I was at Mayo Clinic. I was finishing up a fellowship and saw some issues with regards to temperature control and tracking. So with protein samples that were coming from the bedside down to the lab, every once in a while they would have an issue with temperature control. If it's not kept at either body temperature or refrigerated and it gets to the lab, you could misdiagnose a patient if you run a bad sample and get bad data, which would lead to follow on bad therapies for the wrong condition. So you could potentially hurt a patient with bad temperature control and tracking. So because of that issue, started some IP around a solution for that issue. And looking at other applications in the pharmaceutical space, every year, back in 2015 at that time, $35 billion was being wasted every year because of temperature excursions for vaccines, for therapeutics, for specialty pharmaceutical products. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So it's most likely a lot worse because a lot of biologics are becoming more popular and they're being sent through the retail supply chain now. In addition, just last year there was a huge revaccination for kids that were unprotected against disease because vaccines were either stored or transported at the inappropriate temperatures. And so as a previous pediatric intern, I think that's kind of it's just ridiculous at this point in our state of technology that we don't have better temperature control and tracking for therapeutics. So this was the concept that we got started back in 2015. It's a smart sleeve that would fit around individual tubes or vials or therapeutics. It's a flexible form factor, and we're just starting the very beginning process of the research and development to make that a reality with the University of Minnesota. Right now, to make something that's more easy, we're making a smart medical cooler, and a lot of the components are off the shelf. It doesn't require a lot of research and development. It's something that's practical, that can go through the retail supply chain, that's very durable. It's got a refrigeration system on board. It's battery powered. It has real-time tracking communication, and we're trying to make the documents very easy for the users so that there's no errors in the shipping and in the receiving and in all the regulatory paperwork. So that's a picture of the unit as it is right now. We've got our second iteration done. We're getting into beta pilots later in this year. And the software is up and running. So our value proposition is that we're improving product integrity, obviously, by controlling temperature really precisely. We're trying to improve the workflow efficiency so that specialty pharmacies, pharmaceutical companies don't have to bother with preparing the phase change materials, the packaging, and it's allowing for increased transparency for patients, for all people that are involved in the sending and the receiving of the package. We're able to save companies millions of dollars because they don't need to send things overnight on an airplane anymore because of the packaging that's going to fail in about 24 hours. They can send it ground and save 2/3 of their costs, their logistics costs. The total cost of ownership is a huge advantage as well because although the cooler right now, the price point is around $2,500, with hundreds of uses, that cost comes way down, and it's much cheaper than styrofoam that's being used right now, and the phase change materials and the gel packs, which is all filling up the landfills and leading to lots of problems with the environment. So from a market perspective, the total available market for the cold chain right now at a global level is $30 billion and it will be $85 billion. It's increasing really quickly. The serviceable addressable market that we're targeting or looking at is the United States and Europe. So that's right now it's about $18 billion, and our target market is $3.6 billion. As I mentioned, we're going to sell the cooler for about $2,500. We'll also for those that are interested, we'll also be providing the subscription data as a service for the location, the temperature history profile, the logistics management. Who's our competition and what are they doing now? So there are disposable styrofoam solutions, derivatives of styrofoam, derivatives of basically ice, phase change materials on the right. On the left, we've got battery-powered active solutions, but they're the size of a pallet or even bigger than a pallet, something that would fit in the cargo hold of a truck or airplane. And then we've got real-time tracking solutions down at the bottom, but no one's doing all of this in one solution. We have a good competitive advantage. We're going to be first to the market with this. Our patent portfolio is extensive. We've got about 10 that are either almost filed or allowed, protecting components of the cooler, protecting the smart sleeve, and other potential things we can license. The financials are just focused on the U.S., as I mentioned, just the United States and Europe and Canada. And over the next 5 years, we think we can hit definitely into the 40 million mark. Our roadmap is we're leading with the cooler this year. We'll have beta pilots at the end of the year. Other potential ways to license the technology for the gyroid, which is a foam essentially that will help improve the durability of the cooler. The smart sleeve will be hopefully coming online in a few years. We also think there's a potential consumer play with food and drone delivery. And our technology is evolving so that we can use machine learning to do predictive analytics on the coolers if there's any chance of it failing in the field. Our management team is awesome. It's made up of Russell Sanders, who just finished his time at Thermo King, where he was a master inventor. Chris Lamers, our VP of Finance, here today. Paul Sarian, our VP of Marketing, here today. And we have an awesome, diverse group of advisors. Mike O'Hara, who's got a lot of startup experience. Dan Mirica, a logistics expert. Jeffrey Glosser, a regulatory and pharma expert. Dr. Mizielek, a pathologist. Andreas Vlanos, a very distinguished engineer who's worked at NASA, SpaceX, Apple, tons of great companies, and has been very helpful. Alison Schwartz, who's an investor and also COO of one of the biggest hospice groups. As I mentioned, our progress and traction has been really good. We finally have a demo unit we're bringing to specialty pharmacy groups around Minnesota to help them store, transport really high-end specialty pharmacy products. And we've got our patent portfolio lined up. We've got a great team, and things are really starting to move forward with beta pilots. We are looking for investment, so if you're an accredited investor, we're raising $1 million by the end of October, finishing that raise up as a SAFE agreement with a $4 million cap and 20% discount. Most of the funds will be used for hardware development, software development, inventory, getting through the beta process. And then comparables just for other companies that have been in this space that are kind of similar, that have had acquisitions. There are pretty big acquisitions happening in the market. So with that, thank you very much. Help us bring the cold chain out of the ice age and into the active information IT age. Thank you.